Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. Trust the week's gone well. It's Friday after all. Political reflections. The Pakistani government has authorized its military to respond decisively and comprehensively to any aggression or misadventure by neighboring India. And I think India will be ill-advised to direct its wrath at the Pakistani government. And I think Imran Khan has really proven himself quite accomplished. No opening remarks and no response to questions as US-China trade talks resume. That took me back to the truce dinner when they quaffed Malbec wine with Argentine sirloin steaks and what was a widely anticipated truce dinner. I said then the markets will be watching developments very carefully. End of December, I said the trajectory of the tariff war is another pivotal curve to keep an eye on in 2019. I asked on the 9th of July last year, tariff wars, who blinks first? Consortium News has an interesting article, US and China redefining the terms of war. Like much current analysis of US-Chinese relations, however, he missed a crucial point. For all intents and purposes, the US and China are already at war with one another, even if their present slow-burn conflict may not produce the immediate devastation of a conventional hot war. Its long-term consequences could prove no less dire. Consider it war by another name, or perhaps to bring back a long-retired term, a burning new version of a Cold War. Even before Trump entered the Oval Office, the US military and other branches of government were already gearing up for a long-term quasi-war involving both growing economic and diplomatic pressure on China and a build-up of military forces along that country's periphery. The United States must retain overmatch, the administration's national security strategy insists, and preserve a combination of capabilities in sufficient scale to prevent enemy success, while continuing to shape the international environment to protect our interests. 15th of October, I wrote a piece called War is Coming. That was after the incident with the USS Decatur, where a Chinese warship came within 45 yards of the Decatur in the South China Sea. And I call that a precursor. Ai Weiwei, in a fantastic article about the refugee crisis, says it isn't about refugees, it's about us. If we map the 70-plus border walls and fences built between nations in the past 3 decades, increasingly from roughly a dozen after the fall of the Berlin Wall, we can see the extent of global economic and political disparities. In nature, there are 2 approaches to dealing with flooding. One is to build a dam to stop the flow. The other is to find the right path to allow the flow to continue. Building a dam does not address the source of the flow. It would need to be built higher and higher, eventually holding back a massive volume. If a powerful flood were to occur, it could wipe out everything in its path. The nature of water is to flow. Human nature too seeks freedom, and that human desire is stronger than any natural force, he says. There are many borders to dismantle, but the most important are the ones within our own hearts and minds. These are the borders that are dividing humanity from itself. And that took me to Lao Tzu. Water is fluid, soft and yielding, but water will wear away rock, which is rigid and cannot yield. As a rule, whatever is fluid, soft and yielding will overcome whatever is rigid and hard. This is another paradox. What is soft is strong. I visited the Hirshhorn Gallery when I was in Washington, and I came across this of Ai Weiwei's called What's in a Name. A name is the first and final marker of individual rights, one fixed part of the ever-changing human world. A name is the most basic characteristic of our human rights. No matter how poor or how rich, all living people have a name, and it is endowed with good wishes and the expectant blessings of kindness and virtue. This is a photograph of an installation at the Hirshhorn as well. Bruno Mackay, who's written a book I haven't read yet about the Belt and Road Initiative, says it's a race for power at the heart of the greatest landmass on Earth, the dawn of Eurasia, on the trail of the New World Order. That took me back to August 2017 when I was talking about China rising, and I said Xi Jinping's One Belt, One Road program binds the world to Beijing, because all the roads and railways have but one destination, and that is China.